I was just going through today's episode, and of course, I've got no hesitation to say the video is terrible and audio is absolutely atrocious. But whenever she speaks, she comes up with diamonds or fire. Excellent English, and she has had some education in London and spent some time in London, but most importantly, she is a trendsetter. She made a difference in many people's life. আজকে ইন্দ্রাণীদের সঙ্গে কথা বলবো, but I guess I have got to discuss something today that my friends often ask that why there is a difficult topic on every Saturday. Time is better spent by seeing a patient or discussing something more entertaining, isn't it? I cannot get over my childhood habit of exploring what is behind. And every time my parents left house, I opened up the back of an old classic table clock and understood how the hands ticked. And that habit kind of stuck to me, even during in my fourth decade. Life has got two different types of diseases. One is short term and another is long term. The short term, the shock of it and the quick treatment and getting over is done very quickly. But the long term diseases is a different ballgame. Long term disease has got multiple facets like blaming, harassment, emotional turmoil, misunderstanding, etc. And this is because the problem does not go away. One has to learn living with it. I'm running out of time, so I'll better keep on working and talking to you. What I was going to say is, in today's artificial intelligence healthcare, etc., which is going to come in next 5 to 10 years in a big way, such skills and how to deal with the problem when it doesn't go away will become more and more important. If you're less than 20 years of old, it will hit you. And if you have crossed 40, then it will hit your son or daughter. So it's very important that we learn these skills. Schools are not adaptive enough to teach you these skills very well. And today's discussion with our first lady is like learning alphabets of such skills. Separation, divorce, diabetes, kidney failure, autism, cancer, all need a different approach and fresh mind to deal with it. When she talks autism, you can easily replace it with a person who has just gone through the separation or diagnosed to have cancer. Anything that needs long term care. So don't get swayed away by hearing the disabled child. Adults are equally disabled when they go through major life changes. As you and me are both learning, I will come back briefly to share my understanding, see if you like or not.
वेलकम टू आउट ऑफ सिलेबस मैं हूं आपके साथ आपका दोस्त अरविंद एंड वी हैव डॉक्टर मानस चक्रवर्ती एंड एन इनक्रेडिबली স্পেশাল গেস্ট যাকে আমি দিদিও বলি আবার সম্মান দিয়ে তাকে ম্যামও আমার বলতে খুব ইচ্ছে করে বাট আই থিংক আইল কল ইট দিদি ফর টুডে উইথ আ স্মাইল I am not a parent. Two people on the screen, both of them, one of them is a father, one of them is a mother. Kintu I sometimes think, Jano, if I had a son or a daughter, আর আমাকে যদি কেউ বলতো যে your son or daughter Arvind is suffering from autism, then maybe the first questions that I would have in my mind is তারা কি একটা normal lifestyle lead করতে পারবে? Do I have to change my lifestyle? আমার চাকরি ছেড়ে কি আমার তাদের সাথে এখন থাকতে হবে? How do I manage it? And I think I would have all of these questions and much more. And that's what I imagine. If I imagine the thought and the thought sounds like a world away from the regular world that we know, imagine the kids who are actually suffering from autism and the parents who go through it. Amar nije life I know plenty of close family friends and relatives who actually have kids who are suffering from autism. And aajke out of syllabus se I want to introduce you to an incredibly special lady. We all love stories, don't we? Amra golpo ko পছন্দ করি. But this is a real story that I'm going to share with you. If I'm not wrong, it was in 2001 or 2002 that Indrani set up the Autism Society of West Bengal. And what a lovely initiative. বাচ্চাদের জন্য একটা ছোট্ট play group. And it started with a very, very small number. Kids coming together at a play group. আমি কথা বলছি, properly a play group where, only the kids would participate and the core members would interact. Couple of parents came in. But In turn, আজকে যেটা আজকে revolution হয়ে গেছে with Autism Society of West Bengal, Indrani continues to spearhead this revolution with so many parents coming together. And we go back to this one point again and again. কিছু হলে কিন্তু আমরা একা নই. If we can build up a community, if we can talk to someone, we absolutely know the way forward. Indrani, welcome to Out of Syllabus. আর প্রথমেই আমি আপনাকে প্রশ্ন করব, tell us about your journey with Autism Society of West Bengal. How did it start? And how did you feel as a mother? If you don't mind, can I ask you something at the start?
Yeah. Ask.
You know the lady also, but I will not name her here. It's important that I make this as honest and transparent. Manusda, আমার চেনা পরিচিত একজন মানুষ, তার ছেলে suffers from autism. আর বিকজ উনি আমার ফ্যামিলি ফ্রেন্ড, আমি ইন্টারনাল একটা গল্প তোমাকে বলি আজকে সবার সামনে. You won't believe, she was blamed for the autism.
Oh dear.
মানে আমি এটা ইন্দ্রাণী দি, মানে it was so disheartening for me. My mother used to cry when we used to come back. I don't want to get too personal about this, but ওনাকে সবাই ব্লেম করতো যে তোমার জন্য তোমার ছেলের অটিজম হয়েছে, you are the reason, you are responsible for it. We cannot even imagine what a mother goes through when she's accused of such things. And I know the kind of turmoils they went through before they shifted out of Calcutta, now settled abroad. But I wonder if the way society sees, mane oi point of view, has it changed or not? And sorry, Indrani, I had to be very honest when I started this. As I said, it's close to my heart. Yes, Indrani.
Exactly. In chronic problems, blaming someone is defense mechanism of human mind to get rid of our own future responsibility and family. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from the blame game environment if you want to survive. Let's see.
It's something in our culture that we tend to blame the woman for everything. So in most cases, when things go wrong, even in things like like if there's some marital conflict or if there's any divorce, it's always the woman who gets the blame. That's a very much part of our Indian culture. So when you have a child with disability being born, the first thing people do is to blame the mother. Of course, not always. I won't say that. There are very, very supportive families also who don't do that. But regarding my journey with Autism Society, well, to be honest, I remember quite a bit of it last time I told you. That I started with the boys, especially with my elder son. I was struggling, and the younger one wasn't speaking, or the older one speaks a lot. And so I was kind of trying to find a way when to go. I'm having a meeting. It's a meeting. It's a meeting. So yeah, that was my younger son asking who I'm speaking. So if I'd gone into the discussion, then there'll be long explanation. Who are they? Where are they from? Why are they doing it? So it's better to say to me, Chenona, I don't know them. So anyway, but obviously I'll have to tell him later. So trying to find services was very difficult. So literally had to be creative. It had to be. Aversives used against people with autism, like isolating them, restraining them, giving them a lot of punishment, that kind of stuff. So what happened was that and also there was this secrecy. Like for instance, if somebody went to a therapy center, the parents weren't allowed to see anything. You had to sit outside. And you weren't allowed to ask questions. You weren't allowed to ask, is this going to work for my child? Or why are you teaching this? What is the purpose of this? That really upset me.
Don't you see the problem? The same problem or the opposite of it? When patient has to sit outside and families only talk to doctors. Often we don't include patient and families together in decision making. In adult treatment, we see decisions are often made by the funding person who is spending the money, keeping the patient in dark. Here, if the patient comes together, families come together and form a group, they can make better decisions, not inside doctor's chamber, but outside the chamber as well.
So then there was not much training on autism, but I kind of had to go to many places to learn. And then we started, as you said, with a simple play group with parents and so on. And we started off from there. And then I got more and more trained. I got a lot of parents who joined me. They also got themselves trained. So we were kind of parents, but we were sort of trained as sort of like teachers also, therapists. And we were not just working with our own children, but we were working with each other's children. So it kind of started like that. And then people started coming in and saying, please take my child and see what you can do. And it kind of gradually moved on from there. Now, of course, we are a much bigger organization. So then there was not much training on autism, but I kind of had to go to many places to learn. And then we started, as you said, with a simple play group with parents and so on. And we started off from there. And then I got more and more trained. I got a lot of parents who joined me. They also got themselves trained. So we were kind of parents, but we were sort of trained as sort of like teachers also, therapists. And we were not just working with our own children, but we were working with each other's children. So it kind of started like that. And then people started coming in and saying, please take my child and see what you can do. And it kind of gradually moved on from there. Now, of course, we are a much bigger organization. Then we're now thinking of setting up a skill development center because a lot of children fall through the crack. They don't finish their education, or they finish their education, and then what? Then what? Some do go on to college, some don't. Even if you get to college, getting a job is another issue. The total lack of support in our society, in our governance, in our systems for people who are different, never mind autism, people who are different, is terrible. If you don't fit into that little mold of normalcy, then you are kind of sidelined. You're marginalized. And this is something that has changed very, very slightly. I'm hopeful things will get better. But I think unless we recognize what's wrong with us, or what is not working with us, we can't ask these individuals who are born with a difficulty to make all the compromises, all the adjustments. Talk about accommodation, reasonable accommodation for people with disability. That means you find ways of giving them support. But at the moment, all the accommodations are being made by people with disability. You still can't, if you are a wheelchair person, you still can't independently go and use the public transport. You can't get into buildings, not even government buildings. Putting up a ramp anyhow doesn't work. So we're still not there with people with physical disability. So how far we are away from, because we have no policies. There are no policies. When politicians ask for vote, we do not say, well, what is the policy regarding people who are going to need lifetime care? No parent asks that. I feel in a country as big as India, as in the second largest democracy, it's supposed to be pretty well developed scientifically, technologically, yet we still haven't got this going. And this I find very sad, after all these years of struggling, that this attitude has not changed. But mind you, there are no policies regarding many things to do with marginalized groups. So
Didi, I like to ask you a small question on this one. I recently spoke to a special educator, and she echoed exactly what you said right now. Jay, sometimes we look at them as invisible. একটা বাসে প্রবলেম হয়েছে, তো কন্ডাক্টর কি করলো, বাচ্চাকে আর তার মাকে বললো তোমরা আপনারা নেমে যান এখান থেকে. Not even that sympathy or that consideration or that compassion that needs to be there.
It's not only about a child. Getting to a public transport for an elderly person or anyone who has got physical challenges is a major struggle in developing countries. Crowded places and significantly less patience amongst everyone. If a bus stops for a few more seconds to allow a physically challenged person to board the bus, how many of us will happily spare the time? We need to learn patience. Only government cannot do it again. And few days back in Bali Halt, we heard that the child was not allowed to enter the bus. And it was broadcasted it in radios and everything. We all know about it.
I say that 9 out of 10 people, Manojda, we always find ourselves surrounded with problems. কিন্তু প্রবলেমের সলিউশনটা কেউ খুঁজে বার করতে পারে না. Here is Indrani Di. Can I ask you this question? In the process of finding a solution for your own kids, you also found a solution for a lot of other parents with your playgroup. এই প্লেগ্রুপটা নিয়ে আমাদের একটু বলুন. How did it start? Your first experiences are how has your experience been in interacting with all the parents and finding solutions to chronic problems?
Look, solutions haven't been found. Okay, we're just still moving in the right direction. When that playgroup started, it was why I even now when parents say I want to start a support group, I always say playgroup. Why? Because it's informal, it's very easy going. There is no like there is no condition like you have to achieve this and you have to achieve that. So it's a very kind of easy going. It's good for the kids because there's no pressure on them. It's good for the parents. So that's why we started. And we just met and we had games and fun. We had lots of picnics and going out together. So that helped to build that bonding and make us into a group. But it was not done with that thought in mind. I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking what's possible. Recently we had 2nd April, which is World Autism Awareness Day. And I remember one journalist called me and said that, can you put me in touch with a person who has autism? And he has overcome all his difficulties and is now doing well. So I said, what do you mean by his difficulty? What do you mean? His autism is still there. It's not that his autism is not there. When we talk about a person making it meaning a person with a disability getting to a life, leading a life which is happy, which is rich, and he's contributing. He is also getting support, and he's like anyone else. He's doing multiple things. He has leisure skills. He's doing some job. It may not be well paid, but he's doing it. He has friends, whatever, few. How do you get there? And I feel you don't get there by one therapy. It's like if I want to travel to, let's say, a place, I don't know, somewhere in West Bengal, in some outer areas, and I have to get a couple of connections. So I have to go from here, maybe I have to go from my home by bus, and then get off there and get another connecting bus, and then get a train. And then when I get off the train, I have to take an auto and then arrive at my destinations. A lot of our therapies are like that. It's the question of, did you get the right connections at the right time? There is this window. If you leave, you have to leave your home at the right time. If you leave late, you won't get there. You'll miss all your connections. Okay? And if you leave early, also, you may not get the right connections. So what you have to remember is there is no one therapy that's going to do everything for you. You have to look at what's going to work and what is going to provide your child that learning and progress. So when you talk about solutions, it isn't like one thing. It could be multiple things. It's not just therapy. It's often people. But one particular mainstream teacher who was his, I think, English teacher, who made this huge difference in his life. She taught him not English, but about how to conduct himself in a difficult situation, how to put up with pressure and things like that. So and even if you think back to your childhood, you will always remember, that teacher really helped me, or that person, or that uncle, that auntie. So it's also individuals. So
ইন্দ্রাণী দি, আমি এই প্রসঙ্গে জাস্ট একটা আপনাকে জিজ্ঞাসা করতে চাই, এবং whatever you say is very right, and I guess it's not only about autism. It's about every disease, or every I shouldn't say even disease, any deviation from normality. They face these challenges, that whether they get the right person at the right time, right direction to move towards, and whether they get the social support and everything. On this aspect, I just wanted to have a small question with you. That when you talk to someone with autism, and when I say this, I'm just talking about the communication challenges. Communicating with a patient and a family with a newly diagnosed condition is an art which needs to be learned patiently. You could be a colleague, a family member, a neighbor, or a nurse looking after the patient. Or you could be a son and daughter of the patient, even. The challenges Indrani faced is similar to what we face while talking to adult for any long-term disease patients as well. Let's see what we discuss. When I talk to someone with autism or someone who has got some difficult understanding about their own condition, in that circumstances, normally when we talk to someone, like when I talk to Arvind or when I talk to any other person, ABCD, so we expect some kind of feedback in their face that drives our conversations through. But in autism, of course, we do not get that feedback from the person who has got the autism, and that is one of the main reasons that they have got autism. And these can be in various other diseases as well. So you, being a trainer or motivator or inspirator, or whatever you can say yourself, and of course, being a mother, how do you find, I mean, how to continue this challenging conversation when you are not getting any feedback? If you please enlighten us with that.
One of the things you must remember is people with autism find it very difficult to understand implied information. Like when we meet someone, we say in Bangla, "Kire, kemon achiস?" Or "Ki korছিস টা কি?" Now, a person with autism will take it very literally, and they'll say, "I'm standing here and talking to you." You know, they will not say, "Oh, I'm now doing this, I'm studying this, or I'm going to college, or I'm going to school, or whatever." So when I think we need to keep that in mind, as you would keep in mind, let's say you're talking to someone from China whose English is very poor. You will keep that in mind and make sure you're clear. You will not speak in long sentences, you'll speak in short, simple sentences normally, but try to avoid that implied information, those abstract information, unless you find after a couple of sentences that he's managing very well, and then you can, because some do manage very well. Carry on. Some may just want 2 lines and say, "Okay, I don't want to talk anymore." Some might enjoy that long conversation, might enjoy that long back and forth. So it varies from person to person. As with the non-autistic group, some people like to talk, some people don't. Some people just give, simple one-syllable answers. I think it's best to keep that in mind.
I'm sure Manasa has seen this, but have you seen The Good Doctor, Indranidhi? The series on Netflix?
I didn't. I don't get a chance to see anything. I see little bits and bobs, so that's the way I saw it. I saw a little bit here, a little bit there. I didn't get a chance to follow it.
It's an actor series. I'm 100% Jani. Manasa has seen all the seasons so far, and
very
it's one
good.
of his series on
very,
OTT.
Very good. Yeah.
It's a very good series, isn't it? Also, যখন শনের ক্যারেক্টারটা দেখেও কিন্তু আমরা রিয়েলাইজ করতে পারি that he was a doctor with autism. I mean, he was a surgeon with autism.
We have got many great people with autism, to be honest.
Some really brilliant people, I would add.
Yes,
there's some brilliant people, and there are some ordinary people. Like there are in the neurotypical world, some people are doctors, some people are bus drivers, some people are whatever. Same with the autistic world. And what I liked about these programs called The Good Doctor and so on is how there are these movies or programs, but people with disability are there just doing normal things. Like he's a doctor. I wish that would happen in India. In India, what happens is if you have a person with a disability, that person's disability becomes the theme. It's the main thing. And that becomes a struggle and the sadness. I wish people would show a little bit more of that, of people doing jobs, professions, and they just happen to have autism.
Absolutely.
A long time ago, there was a program, American program on law and order, I think. And there was a lawyer with autism. I remember that. There was a lawyer with autism. Then there was a detective story. These are very old ones. I'm very old, so I only remember the old ones. So there was this is an all-American series. there was a detective with ADHD, and and that's because of his ADHD, he was able to do a lot of things. But I wish we had more of that in social media, in our entertainment media, so that it becomes a very normal thing to have a disability in the day-to-day life.
And this is something I think me and Arvind would like as well, that that the people get to, there's a lot of themes of soaps and বাংলায় যেটাকে বলে ধারাবাহিক and in episodes and various dramas, but I think still India's media is changing, but I think we would be very grateful. I would use the term grateful. We'd be very grateful to hear about those parallel aspects of life to be becoming the mainstream, because they are mainstream, they are reality, they are contributing to the society. And of course media has got a very major part in shaping our vision, because I can decide that I'm not going to use this phone today, but I cannot shake off my idea about a Bollywood cinema or movie that I have seen. I cannot shake away all my thoughts regarding what Shah Rukh Khan did in certain movies and stuff, because if the actors and actresses, they play a huge part, and if they can energize people and Indian citizens and stuff, our outlook in the society will definitely change. And thank you, Indrani, for bringing this out. I have got just one more, the time is running out, but I have got one small question to you. It's a little bit different than whatever we are discussing. In our day-to-day life, we think that with the people with the chronic disability, and I think the autism is a kind of a chronic problem, and there are ways to win that. But I do not have personal experience in autism, Indrani, but you have. But what we see in our day-to-day life with people with chronic problem, either is a chronic kidney problem, chronic heart problem, or chronic problems like cancer and stuff and all this, the role of nature and going to the greens are very important, that we go to the greens and stuff. Does it help autism? Talking to nature, does it help autism? And of course, the newer theme is care of the carers, that the people who are looking after autism or any other chronic diseases, like someone who is looking after cancer patients at family who does not have cancer in themselves, but they have got someone else in their family who has got cancer. They sometimes, after working with that and dealing with the patients and stuff, they get bored, then they get sometimes frustrated, and sometimes going to the nature and greens helps. Does this resonate in terms of autism?
Not just autism, what you said is that when you are giving support to someone who needs it, okay? So I wouldn't talk about, whether it's a kidney problem or dementia or whatever. I'm just talking about as a whole. So I wouldn't use the word like chronic. If I'm in long-term care of someone at whatever level, then of course you need some time off. And a lot of carers find a way of getting that time off, but very often it's not possible, because again, our system of healthcare and so on does not provide that relief, because you have to do, our citizens have to do everything on that. Everything. And doesn't matter. If you are providing support to someone, nobody's going to come and say, okay, take a couple of hours off. Being in nature helps everyone. And as days go on, I find we're distancing ourselves. So yes, going to nature helps everyone. It connects us with who we are, and and it kind of, it takes away the constant battle, the stress. Definitely it helps.
Just see, sometimes you have to take a break from daily life. Small holidays will help the family members look after the patient, so they can look after the patient even better after they come back. My last question to you, Indrani, what about pets? The role of pets in dealing with the people with chronic problems and their carers.
Oh yes, obviously pets. If the pet is not going to also take up time for caring, yes, pets often help. It doesn't have to be like a great big dog. It can be a cat. It can be anything. Pets help, but I'm not saying it's essential. But taking a break, walk, giving that little time to yourself, caring for yourself is very important. If a pet gives you that, then definitely you should.
Also, I loved how she said caring for yourself, and it's the same for even someone from a cancer patient's family. নিজেকে আমরা যদি কেয়ার না করতে পারি, নিজেকে যদি না দেখতে পারি, then we cannot gather up enough energy for the fight. Indrani, I have a line for you. It's a line that I've been using for most of our guests on Out of Syllabus, and I think that's a safe line with which we can end. The happiest people in this world are the ones who know how to give it back to the world around them, and they do it with such vigor and such energy. আর সত্যি কথা বলছি, মানে ইন্দ্রানিদি, when I look at your life and all that you've done with the Autism Society of West Bengal, bringing parents together, creating support groups, you're going for a policy change, you're constantly fighting it out. It seems like a never-ending battle, but you're simply not giving up. At any given point of time, I spoke to you years back. You were strong then. It seems in 2022 you become even more stronger. Your seems to be
Getting
doubling up.
older. No, getting older, and once you get older, you stop being scared of things. Like earlier, I was scared of a lot of things. Now I don't care. What
I
what is there to be scared of?
think it's so admirable. Age of feisty nature ta manusda of just giving it back to the world. It's so admirable, on multiple levels.
And that
So,
drives
yes,
the
thank you so
society in the long run. That drives the society.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us on Out of Syllabus. Do we have time to have one last question, Manozda?
I think we have got 5 minutes to talk, and
তাহলে
so
আমি
let's
একটা
utilize.
প্রশ্ন আপনাকে করতে চাই, ইন্দ্রানিদি, and this is a question that pertains to everyone watching us right now. I have a problem. I have been diagnosed with a medical, term. It could be cancer. It could be anything. How do I convince my mind that I need to fight? মানে বলাটা খুব easy. বলাটা খুবই ইজি, স্টে কাম, মনটা শান্ত থাকলে সবকিছু করা যেতে পারে, the doctor says, the family members say, but for the person who's going through the turmoil at that particular point of time, তাদের মাথায় কিন্তু এই জ্ঞানটা কাজ করে না. They feel irritated with people who are coming and saying them, be calm, everything is fine. They feel, oh, you're not facing cancer, you're not facing this, you're not facing half of the problems that I'm facing.
Very true.
So how do you tell your mind at that particular point of time that this is a battle I need to win, but again, I need to gather my own headspace right. I need to get my headspace right.
Yeah, I don't usually tell them it's a fight. Like whoever comes to me, like other than autism, of course, there have been diseases and things that we've also faced. And I never talk about fighting. I talk about go with the flow. Just flow. As the current takes you, flow with it. And then see what comes up, If you need to do something, do it. If you need to do something else, do it. Don't think about the battle and the winning and all that. Just go with the flow. And if you can keep yourself just looking ahead, I really, when you in life, I'm not talking about my life, but generally in life we do a lot of things which are right and wrong. But I think it's a good thing not to look back. Not to look back and go through remorse and guilt and all that, because those emotions are useless. If you've done something wrong, you did something wrong, you put it right. If you can't put it right, try to put something right anyway. And move on, and just go with the flow and see what comes up. And if you go with the flow, things do come up. If you're in a battle, like locking horns with a condition, or as you were talking about cancer, you're just going to get stressed out. Go with the flow. Okay, I have this. It's okay. Let's just see what I can do for myself. What I can do to keep myself buoyant and just move along. Just take one step at a time and keep going. This is what I tell parents. Don't get into this thing, oh, I must overcome autism. No, just go with it. Go with what's coming up. And it will come up. Each day will be better than the day before.
It so resembles Marusa. I like to end by saying, if you can see the logo on my cap, he's one of my favorite players. Jara tennis follow kore, 21 times Grand Slam winner Rafael Nadal.
Yes.
When he was 11 years old, he was diagnosed with a very bad foot disease. Tennis na onek dodote hoy, and best of 5 is even more hectic. So he was told that you should not be playing tennis at 11 years, and he goes on to win 21 Grand Slams, more than any other person in the history of the game. আর তোমার এই কথাটা আমি just একটা কথা বলতে চাই. In January, he won the Australian Open at 36 years old, becoming the oldest guy to win the Grand Slam from 2 sets down, facing a guy who comes in, finals of the Grand Slam after being on crutches for 6 months with no practice. মানে তোমার যে সেই পয়েন্টটা আমি কেন রেজোনেট করছে, because he said something very nice after he won, Manusda. He was
Yes.
2 sets down. The reporter asked him, what made you go on to win that match? At the end of the 5th set, you were looking the fitter guy, and the guy who was 14-15 years younger to you, Daniel Medvedev, was more tired. He said, I have been trained to fight every point. I did not think about what is going to happen in the 5th set. At every given point of time, even when I was losing in the 3rd set, I said, let's hang in there. Let me win this match. Let me win this particular point. Tar aage jeta hobe dekha jabe. And that one by one, it got him to the Grand Slam victory. Sorry, একটু স্পোর্টস এর কম্পারিজন নিয়ে আসি।
না আমি এই প্রসঙ্গে একটা কথা বলে দিতে চাই, এবং আমাদের হাতে একদম সময় নেই। আমাদের ডাক্তারি ভাষায় আমরা ইংল্যান্ডে এই ব্যাপারটা খুব ছিল, উই হ্যাভ টু টেক ইচ ডে এট এ টাইম। উই ক্যানট থিঙ্ক অ্যাবাউট হোয়াট ওয়েন্ট বিফোর দ্যাট দিস ডে and what will come beyond this day. We have to take the present so that it becomes a gift. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind.